I was in the middle of a client presentation when my phone buzzed for the third time. I ignored it. Fourth time. Fifth. Then it started ringing, and I knew something was wrong. The number was local, but unfamiliar. My hands trembled as I excused myself from the conference room, my dark fingers swiping to answer. "Is this Diane Morrison?" A man's voice, urgent, professional. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Marcus Chen. I'm an EMT. Your father collapsed at the airport about 40 minutes ago. We're transporting him to Memorial General right now. You need to come immediately." The room spun around me. "What? My father? Is he okay? What happened?" "Ma'am, I can't discuss details over the phone, but it's serious. How quickly can you get here?" I was already grabbing my blazer, my natural hair still pulled back in the same low bun I'd worn to look professional for the presentation. 20 minutes. I'm leaving now." "Good. Ask for the emergency department. They're expecting you." The call ended. My chest tightened as I rushed back to grab my bag, mumbling something to my colleagues about a family emergency. 23 minutes later, I was pulling into the hospital parking lot, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. Have you ever gotten a call that made your whole world stop? Drop a comment below." The emergency department was chaos. Fluorescent lights, urgent voices, the smell of antiseptic and fear. I approached the desk, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm looking for James Morrison. He was brought in by ambulance about an hour ago." The nurse's eyes softened with recognition. "You're his daughter? Room 7, but the doctor wants to speak with you first. I'll page her." "Can I see him?" "The doctor will explain everything. Just wait here." I stood frozen in that hallway, my blood running cold. Through the small window in the door marked 7, I could see my father's still form on the bed, tubes and wires connecting him to machines I didn't understand. He looked so small. My dad, who'd always seemed invincible, who'd taught me to ride a bike and change a tire and stand up for myself, looked fragile. "Ms. Morrison?" A woman in a white coat approached, her expression carefully neutral. "I'm Dr. Patel. Your father had a major cardiac event. We're stabilizing him now, but the next few hours are critical. Is he going to be okay? We're doing everything we can. He's unconscious right now. We've induced a medical coma to reduce stress on his heart. Do you know if he has any advance directives? Any DNR orders?" My mind went blank. "I don't know. His wife would know. Has anyone contacted her?" Dr. Patel checked her tablet. "We tried the emergency contact number listed, but no one answered. We left messages. My stepmother, Vivian. Of course she wasn't answering. Let me try her." I stepped away from the doctor, pulling up Vivian's number. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail, a 3rd time. Nothing. Something inside me hardened. My father was fighting for his life, and she couldn't be bothered to answer her phone. "She's not picking up," I told Dr. Patel. "But I'm his daughter. I can make decisions if needed." "Are you listed as his medical power of attorney?" "I don't know. Probably not." Vivian had married my dad 5 years ago, after my mother passed away from cancer. She'd swept in during his grief, all practiced sweetness and sugar-coated concern. Within 18 months, they were married. Within 2 years, I barely recognized my father's life. She'd redecorated the house, replaced my mother's furniture, even convinced him to move to a gated community 40 minutes away from me. "Let me check his records," Dr. Patel said, scrolling through her tablet. "Yes, his wife is listed as primary, but given the circumstances, we'll try to keep you informed. You can sit with him if you'd like." I pushed through the door into room 7. The machines beeped steadily, rhythmically. My dad's face was gray, his breathing assisted by a ventilator. I pulled a chair close to the bed and took his hand. His dark skin felt cool, papery. "Wrong. Dad," I whispered. "I'm here. You're going to be okay." But I didn't know if that was true. I tried Vivian again. Nothing. I called her sister. No answer. I called my dad's brother, my Uncle Marcus. He picked up on the 2nd ring. "Diane, what's wrong?" I explained everything, my voice cracking. Uncle Marcus had never trusted Vivian, had warned my dad that she was after his money, his military pension, his savings. My dad had dismissed it as Marcus being overprotective. "I'm coming up there right now," Uncle Marcus said. Keep trying, Vivian. This is ridiculous. 2 hours passed. I sat with my father, watching the monitors, memorizing the rhythm of his artificial breathing. The nurses came and went, adjusting things, checking things, speaking in low, efficient tones. Dr. Patel returned twice to update me, though there wasn't much to say. Critical, but stable. Wait and see. The next 24 hours would tell us everything. Still no word from Vivian. At 7 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Jasmine, Uncle Marcus's daughter. Check Vivian's Instagram. My stomach dropped. I opened the app, navigating to Vivian's profile. She'd posted a story 3 hours ago. 3 hours. While my father lay unconscious in the hospital. The story was from the Golden Palace Casino, about 30 miles outside the city. A video of her laughing with friends, cocktail in hand, slot machines chiming in the background. The caption, "Lucky day, feeling blessed, ice water through my veins." My father was in a medically induced coma, and his wife was at a casino, posting about feeling blessed. I screenshotted everything. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. Then I noticed something in the corner of one video. She was waving a credit card at the bartender. My dad's platinum card. I recognized it because I'd helped him apply for it 2 years ago, before Vivian had inserted herself into every aspect of his financial life. What I didn't realize was that this was just the beginning. Subscribe before I reveal what I discovered next, because what I found changed everything. I opened my dad's wallet, which the EMTs had given me, along with his other personal effects. Inside were 3 credit cards, his driver's license, his military ID. But something was off. I remembered him always carrying at least 5 cards, various accounts for different purposes. The platinum card wasn't there. Neither was his gold card. Or his debit card. Vivian had them. My mind raced. If she was at the casino with his cards, what else was she doing? I thought about the last few months, the way she'd been acting, increasingly distant from me, increasingly controlling of my father's time and money. The way she'd suggested he update his will to make things simpler. The way she'd convinced him to add her name to his accounts just in case something happened. Little did I know, she'd been planning for exactly this. I left my father's room and found a quiet corner of the waiting area. I called the customer service number on the back of my own credit card, which was from the same bank my father used. "Thank you for calling First National Bank. This is Derek speaking. How can I help you today?" "Hi, Derek. I need to report a potential fraud situation involving my father's accounts." "I can help with that. Can I get the account holder's name?" "James Morrison." "And what's your relationship to Mr. Morrison?" "I'm his daughter, Diane Morrison." "I see. Unfortunately, without being listed on the account or having power of attorney, I can't access his information or make changes." My jaw clenched. My father is unconscious in the hospital right now. He had a major heart attack. His wife has his credit cards and is currently at a casino spending his money while he's in a medically induced coma. I need to freeze his accounts. There was a pause. "I understand this is a difficult situation, but without proper authorization, my hands are tied. The account holder would need to make that request, or someone with documented power of attorney. He can't consent right now. He's unconscious. Doesn't that matter?" "I'm very sorry, but company policy is clear. If you can get a court order or medical power of attorney documentation, we can proceed. Otherwise, if his wife is an authorized user on the accounts, she has every right to use them." I wanted to scream. Even if he's incapacitated? If she's authorized on the account, yes. I know this isn't what you want to hear. I hung up, my hands curling into fists. Vivian was authorized on everything. She'd made sure of that. And now, while my father fought for his life, she was draining his accounts at a casino. The next part still gives me chills. I called my father's lawyer, a man named Richard Chen, who'd handled my parents' estate planning decades ago. He picked up on the 3rd ring. "Richard, it's Diane Morrison. I need your help." "Diane? What's going on?" I explained everything, my words tumbling over each other. The heart attack, Vivian at the casino, the credit cards, the bank's refusal to help. Richard was quiet for a long moment. "This is tricky. If Vivian is an authorized user and they're married, legally she has access to those funds. Unless we can prove he's been declared incompetent, or unless you have medical power of attorney." "I don't, she does. Then our options are limited. We'd need to file for emergency guardianship, which takes time. Days at minimum, maybe longer. Days? Richard, she could drain everything in days. I know. Let me think. Another pause. Does your father have any accounts that are solely in his name? Anything Vivian isn't on? My mind raced back through conversations, trying to remember. His military pension, that direct deposits into a checking account. But I think she's on that too now. What about investment accounts? Retirement accounts? He has an IRA. I helped him set it up 20 years ago. Vivian shouldn't be on that. It's beneficiary designated, not joint ownership. That's something. Those accounts are protected from spouses until the account holder dies. But it doesn't help with the credit cards. I felt tears blurring my vision, but I blinked them back. So I just have to watch her steal from him? Not necessarily. Richard's tone shifted, became more thoughtful. If you can document that she's engaging in financial abuse while he's incapacitated, that strengthens a guardianship case. Do you have proof she's at the casino? Screenshots of her Instagram, videos, timestamps. Good. Keep documenting everything. Every transaction you can track, every social media post. In the meantime, I'll start the guardianship paperwork. But Diane, be prepared. This could get ugly. Vivian will fight back. I don't care. This is my father's life savings. My mother's insurance money that he saved. His military pension. She doesn't get to just take it. If you're enjoying this, hit that like button right now. Because what happened next was something I never expected. I went back to my father's room. Uncle Marcus had arrived, his face grim. He hugged me tight, and I let myself collapse for just a moment into the safety of family. Where is she? He asked. At the Golden Palace Casino, apparently living her best life. Marcus's jaw tightened. That woman. I told James. I told him she was bad news. Can you stay with him? I need to do something. What are you planning? I don't know yet, but I can't just sit here while she steals from him. I drove home in a strange calm, my mind working through possibilities. When I got to my apartment, I pulled out every document I had related to my father's finances. Old tax returns, insurance papers, the paperwork from when I'd helped him set up his IRA, notes from when my mother had been alive, her meticulous record-keeping of their assets. Then I started making calls. First, I called the Golden Palace Casino. Hi, I need to speak with your security department. Regarding? I believe someone is there using stolen credit cards. I was transferred. A gruff voice answered, Security, this is Mike. Hi, Mike. My name is Diane Morrison. My father had a major heart attack today, and his wife is currently at your casino using his credit cards without his knowledge or consent. He's unconscious in the hospital and can't authorize the charges. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? I have screenshots of her social media posts showing she's there right now. I have documentation that my father is hospitalized and incapacitated, and I have his wallet, which should contain those credit cards, except she took them. Mike was quiet. Ma'am, if the cards aren't reported stolen by the account holder or the bank, we can't do anything. Legally, she could be an authorized user. She is, but he can't consent right now. I understand your frustration, but unless the bank freezes the cards or reports fraud, our hands are tied. We can't stop someone from using a valid card. Another dead end. I hung up, staring at my apartment ceiling, feeling the weight of helplessness. That's when I realized something. My father had always been paranoid about identity theft. After my mother died, he'd signed up for a credit monitoring service, one of those premium ones that alerts you to any unusual activity. He'd added me as an authorized contact for notifications. I logged into the service using the information I'd saved in my password manager from years ago when he'd first set it up. His account was still active, and there, in real time, I could see the charges rolling in. Golden Palace Casino, $347 at 8 p.m. Golden Palace Casino, $512 at 8:23 p.m. Golden Palace Casino, $895 at 8:46 p.m. High-end restaurant inside the casino, $234 at 9:15 p.m. My blood ran cold. In less than 2 hours, she'd spent nearly $2,000, and she wasn't stopping. I clicked through to the account details. The credit monitoring service had a feature I'd forgotten about, an emergency freeze option. It was designed for identity theft situations, but the terms of service were clear. If you had reason to believe your account was being used fraudulently or without your consent while you were incapacitated, an authorized contact could request a temporary freeze pending investigation. I was listed as an authorized contact. My hands hovered over the keyboard. This was it. This was how I could stop her. But something made me pause. If I froze the accounts now, Vivian would know immediately. She'd have time to regroup, to spin a story, to potentially hide other assets or make moves I couldn't track. No, I needed to be strategic. I needed to wait for the perfect moment. Would you do what I did? Comment below before I tell you what happened next, because what I did was ruthless. I checked her Instagram again. She'd posted another story 20 minutes ago. Still at the casino, still drinking, still laughing. In the video, I could see her clearly now. My stepmother, wearing an expensive dress I recognized from my father's credit card statements. Her blonde hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She looked like she didn't have a care in the world. While my father was alone in the hospital, breathing through a machine. I screenshotted everything, every charge, every social media post, every timestamp. I created a folder on my laptop and organized it all chronologically. Documentation, evidence, proof. Then I waited. At 10:37 p.m., I saw a new charge come through. $15,000. A cash advance from the casino ATM. $15,000. My vision blurred with rage. That was my father's emergency fund. Money he'd saved for decades. Money from my mother's life insurance that was supposed to be untouchable. She was withdrawing it in cash. That's when everything changed. I opened the credit monitoring app and navigated to the emergency services section. My fingers trembled as I filled out the form. Account holder name, James Morrison. Reason for freeze request, account holder is currently hospitalized and medically incapacitated. Unauthorized charges are being made without consent. Account holder cannot approve or deny transactions at this time. Requesting immediate freeze on all associated accounts, pending medical recovery or appointment of legal guardian. Authorized contact making request. Diane Morrison, daughter supporting documentation. I uploaded everything. Screenshots of the casino charges, photos of Vivian's social media posts, a photo of my father's hospital wristband, a statement from Dr. Patel that I'd requested earlier confirming he was in a medically induced coma and unable to make decisions. Are you sure you want to request an emergency freeze? This action will immediately suspend all account activity and cannot be undone without proper authorization. I clicked yes. The system processed for what felt like an eternity. 30 seconds, a minute. Then, emergency freeze request submitted. All associated accounts will be suspended within 15 to 20 minutes. The account holder and all authorized users will receive notification. I sat back in my chair, my heart pounding. 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, Vivian's cards would stop working. I imagined her at the casino, drunk on my father's money and her own sense of invincibility, trying to make another withdrawal. I imagined the card being declined, the confusion on her face, the dawning realization. Little did she know, I was just getting started. I called Uncle Marcus. It's done. I froze the accounts. How? Long story. But in about 15 minutes, her cards are going to stop working. Good. That woman deserves everything coming to her. Marcus, I need you to do something. Can you go to Dad's house? I need you to document everything. Take photos, especially of any receipts, bank statements, anything financial you can find. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we're going to need ammunition when she fights back. And she will fight back. I could hear him moving already. I'm on my way. I stayed glued to my phone, watching the time tick by. 15 minutes. 16. 17. At 18 minutes, I saw her Instagram story update. It was a photo of a declined credit card with the caption, WTF? These machines are broken. My stomach flipped with a strange relief. It had worked. 2 minutes later, she posted another story. This time, a video of her at the casino customer service desk, her voice shrill with indignation. This is ridiculous. My husband's cards aren't working. There's clearly been some mistake. I watched as the customer service representative, a young woman with exhausted patience, explained something to her. Vivian's face went from confusion to shock to fury in the span of seconds. The video cut off. Subscribe if you love seeing justice served, because what happened in the next hour was insane. 19 minutes after I'd initiated the freeze, my phone rang. Vivian. I let it ring. She called again and again. On the fourth try, I answered. Diane. Her voice was tight, with barely controlled rage. What did you do? Hello, Vivian. Where are you? I kept my tone neutral, calm. Don't play games with me. I know you did something to your father's accounts. I protected my incapacitated father's assets from unauthorized use. That's what I did. Unauthorized? I'm his wife. I have every right to those accounts. Do you? Because according to the credit monitoring service, fraudulent charges were being made while the account holder was unconscious and unable to consent. Interesting how that works. You had no right! She was screaming now, her practiced sweetness completely gone. This was the real Vivian, the one she'd hidden from my father. Those are my cards, my accounts. Actually, they're my father's accounts. You're just an authorized user, and when the account holder can't consent, those authorizations can be suspended. This is illegal. I'm calling my lawyer. Please do. I'm sure they'll be very interested in the receipts I have of you spending $15,000 at a casino while your husband was in a coma. I kept my voice ice cold, steady. But in the meantime, those accounts are frozen. Every single one. You can't do this. I just did. Now, are you planning to visit your husband? You know, the man currently fighting for his life in the hospital? Don't you dare lecture me about... I hung up. My hands were shaking, but this time with adrenaline, not fear. It felt good. No, it felt right. She called back immediately. I declined it. She called again. Declined. She sent a text. You'll regret this. I screenshotted it and added it to my evidence folder. My phone rang again, but this time it was Uncle Marcus. Diane, you need to see this. What did you find? I'm at your dad's house. The safe in his office is open. It's empty. My chest tightened. What was in there? I don't know everything, but I know he kept backup cash, your mom's jewelry, some bearer bonds. It's all gone. How did she get into the safe? Lock's been drilled out. Professional job. This wasn't recent, Diane. This was planned. I felt a strange calm wash over me. Of course it was planned. Vivian hadn't just seized an opportunity tonight. She'd been systematically stealing from my father for months, maybe years. The casino tonight was just her being bold because she thought he might not wake up. She thought she'd gotten away with it. Take photos of everything, Marcus. The safe, the empty drawers, all of it. Already doing it. But Diane, there's more. I found bank statements in the trash. Looks like she's been moving money to offshore accounts. Small amounts. Probably trying to stay under reporting thresholds. How much? From what I can piece together, maybe $200,000 over the last 18 months. $200,000. My mother's life insurance, my father's savings, his military pension payments, all of it, siphoned away by a woman who'd pretended to love him. That's when I realized something else. If you've ever been underestimated like this, comment below. Because what I discovered next proved she'd underestimated me completely. I called Richard Chen back, despite the late hour. Richard, how fast can you file for emergency guardianship? If we can prove immediate financial danger, maybe 48 hours for a hearing. Why? I found evidence she's been embezzling. Offshore accounts, at least $200,000. And she drilled out his safe tonight and emptied it. Tonight? While he's in the hospital? No, Uncle Marcus thinks it was done earlier, maybe even days ago. She planned this. Richard whistled low. That changes things. That's not just financial abuse, that's calculated theft. With that evidence, I can file first thing in the morning. But Diane, you need to be prepared. She's going to fight back hard. She might claim you're the one stealing, that you're trying to cut her out. Let her try. I have documentation of everything. Good. Start writing down a timeline. Every interaction, every charge, every conversation, we're going to need it. I stayed up all night building the case. Every transaction I could find in the credit monitoring service. Every social media post Vivian had made over the last 6 months, showing expensive purchases, luxury trips, designer clothes, all while my father had been complaining about being on a fixed income. Every text message she'd sent me over the years, the ones where her mask had slipped and she'd been cold or dismissive or cruel. By 6 a.m., I had a 47-page document. Timeline, evidence, witness statements from Uncle Marcus, photos, bank statements, screenshots, everything organized, indexed, and annotated. At 7 a.m., I drove back to the hospital. My father's condition was unchanged, still critical, still in a coma. But his monitors were stable, and the nurses seemed cautiously optimistic. "How long until we know?" I asked Dr. Patel. "Could be days, could be longer. We're reducing the sedation gradually, letting his brain recover. But Ms. Morrison, you should know, even if he wakes up, there might be cognitive impacts, memory issues, confusion. We won't know the extent until he's conscious." I nodded, squeezing my father's hand. "I'm taking care of everything, Dad. I promise." At 8:45 a.m., Richard filed the emergency guardianship petition. By 11 a.m., we had a hearing scheduled for the following day. By noon, Vivian had filed a counter-petition claiming I was attempting to steal my father's assets and exclude his legal wife from medical decisions. And that's when things got really interesting. The courthouse was cold marble and fluorescent lighting. I'd worn my most professional outfit, a navy suit that I'd bought for client meetings, my locks twisted into an elegant updo. I wanted to look composed, untouchable, nothing like the grief-stricken daughter Vivian probably expected. She arrived with her lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. She'd dressed the part too, conservative dress, minimal makeup, her whole demeanor screaming devoted wife. If I hadn't seen her Instagram stories from the casino, I might have believed it. The judge was a woman in her 60s, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, Judge Patricia Morrison. No relation, but I chose to take it as a good sign. "This is an unusual case," Judge Morrison began. "Mr. James Morrison is currently incapacitated following a cardiac event. His daughter, Diane Morrison, is petitioning for emergency guardianship, citing financial abuse by his wife, Vivian Morrison. Mrs. Vivian Morrison contests this, claiming her stepdaughter is attempting to usurp her legal rights as spouse. Let's hear from both sides. Ms. Morrison, you filed first. Present your case." Richard stood. "Your Honor, the facts are clear and disturbing. While Mr. Morrison lay in a medically induced coma, unable to consent or make decisions, Mrs. Vivian Morrison spent the evening at a casino, charging thousands of dollars to his credit cards. We have documentation of charges totaling nearly $20,000 in a single evening, including a $15,000 cash advance. Additionally, we have evidence of systematic financial abuse over the prior 18 months, including unauthorized transfers to offshore accounts totaling approximately $200,000. He presented the evidence, each document projected onto a screen. The casino charges, the offshore account statements Uncle Marcus had found, the photos of the emptied safe, Vivian's Instagram stories, time-stamped and undeniable. Vivian's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, Mrs. Morrison is an authorized user on all these accounts. She's his wife. She has every legal right to access these funds. As for the offshore accounts, those were joint decisions made by the couple for tax planning purposes. And the safe? Mrs. Morrison was securing valuable items for safekeeping during a chaotic time." "By drilling out the lock?" Richard interjected. "The key was lost. It was an emergency." Judge Morrison raised a hand. "Let's stick to the facts. Mrs. Vivian Morrison, can you explain why you were at a casino while your husband was in critical condition at a hospital?" Vivian dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "Your Honor, I was devastated, in shock. I couldn't bear to sit in that hospital room watching him suffer. I needed to clear my head. I admit it was poor judgment, but grief makes you do strange things." "Grief doesn't make you charge $15,000 in cash," I said, my voice cutting through the courtroom. Judge Morrison looked at me. "Ms. Diane Morrison, you'll have your turn to speak." "I apologize, Your Honor." The judge reviewed the documents in silence for several minutes. Then she looked up. "Mrs. Vivian Morrison, these offshore accounts. Can you provide documentation that your husband was aware of and consented to these transfers?" Vivian's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "Your Honor, that documentation exists, but we need time to gather it." "You don't have it now?" "No, Your Honor." "I see. And the safe? Where are the contents now?" "In a secure location. Vivian said smoothly. Can you specify? A safe deposit box. Which bank? Vivian hesitated, just for a second. I'd need to check the records. You don't remember which bank you used to secure your husband's valuables? It's been a stressful time, Your Honor. Judge Morrison's expression didn't change, but I saw something in her eyes. Disbelief. Ms. Diane Morrison, you're requesting emergency guardianship over both your father's person and his estate, correct? Yes, Your Honor. And you believe you can better manage his affairs? I believe I can prevent them from being stolen, Your Honor. I'm not trying to profit. I'm trying to protect my father's assets until he can make his own decisions again. If he wakes up and wants his wife to have access, that's his choice. But right now, he can't make that choice, and his accounts are being drained. My favorite moment was when the judge made her ruling. What was yours? Comment below. Judge Morrison closed the file in front of her. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm granting temporary emergency guardianship to Ms. Diane Morrison over her father's estate for a period of 30 days, renewable pending Mr. Morrison's medical status. This includes control over all financial accounts, assets, and decisions. Mrs. Vivian Morrison, you will retain medical power of attorney for now, but Ms. Diane Morrison must be consulted on all major medical decisions. Both parties will provide a full accounting of all assets and transactions to the court within 10 days. We'll reconvene in 30 days to reassess. She looked directly at Vivian. Mrs. Morrison, I'm also ordering you to disclose the location of all items removed from the marital home, including the contents of the safe, within 72 hours. Failure to comply will result in contempt charges. Vivian's face went white. Furthermore, I'm ordering a forensic audit of all accounts associated with Mr. James Morrison for the past 24 months. If evidence of fraud or theft is found, I will refer this matter to the district attorney. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor, Vivian's lawyer said weakly. Court adjourned. I walked out of that courtroom feeling like I could breathe for the first time in 2 days. Richard clapped me on the shoulder. You did good, kid. Real good. What happens now? Now? We wait for her to comply with the order, and I'm betting she won't, which means contempt charges, which means we get to depose her under oath, which means everything comes out. And if she runs, she won't get far. The judge froze her passport while we were in there. Did you catch that? I hadn't. But it made sense. Vivian had offshore accounts, which meant she had escape plans. My phone buzzed. Uncle Marcus, you're not going to believe this. What now? I went back to your dad's house to secure it better. Vivian showed up with a moving truck. She's trying to clear out the place. She can't do that. I have guardianship. I told her that. She told me to get out, or she'd call the cops. So I called the cops. I drove to my father's house at 20 miles over the speed limit. When I arrived, there was a moving truck in the driveway, 2 police officers on the lawn, Uncle Marcus holding his phone up recording everything, and Vivian screaming at anyone who would listen. That's my house, my things. You can't keep me out of my own home. One of the officers, a woman with tired eyes and impressive patience, was trying to explain. Ma'am, according to the court order, you need to coordinate with Ms. Diane Morrison before removing any property from the residence. She's not even his real daughter. I'm his wife. I walked up calmly, holding my phone with the court order pulled up. Officer, I'm Diane Morrison. I have emergency guardianship over the estate. The officer reviewed the document on my phone. Looks legitimate. Ma'am, she turned to Vivian, you need to leave. You can file a motion with the court to retrieve personal property, but you can't remove anything right now. This is insane. That's my jewelry, my clothes. Your jewelry? I said, my voice cold. Or my mother's jewelry from the safe you emptied? Vivian's eyes narrowed. You have no proof I took anything. Actually, I have an entire safe full of missing proof, and the judge gave you 72 hours to return it, or you'll be held in contempt. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to yourself. The officers escorted her off the property. The moving truck left, empty. Uncle Marcus high-fived me once they were gone. That was beautiful, he said. It's not over yet. I know. But damn, that felt good. If you're a woman who's had to stand up for herself, hit that like button. Because the next 72 hours were a masterclass in watching someone's lies unravel. Vivian didn't return the contents of the safe, not in 72 hours, not in 96. On day 5, Judge Morrison issued a contempt order and a warrant for her arrest. She was picked up that afternoon at a friend's house, trying to board up there while she figured things out. She spent the night in county jail. The next morning, her lawyer appeared with a motion to dismiss the contempt charge. Vivian had suddenly remembered where the safe contents were, in a storage unit across town. Uncle Marcus and I met the sheriff's deputy at the storage facility, Unit 243. When they cut the lock and opened the door, I felt my blood run cold. It was empty. "Where is everything?" the deputy asked Vivian. She looked genuinely confused. "I don't understand. It was here. I put it here myself." "When?" "A few weeks ago." "So, before your husband's heart attack?" She hesitated. "Yes, for safekeeping." "And you're saying someone broke into this facility and stole everything?" "That's the only explanation." The deputy was not impressed. "Ma'am, this facility has cameras. We're going to review the footage. If you remove these items after you were ordered to return them, that's destruction of evidence." Vivian's face went pale. "I didn't, I swear." But the cameras told a different story. Footage from 3 days earlier showed Vivian arriving with a different man, not her lawyer, and the two of them loading boxes into a white van. The license plate was registered to Vivian's sister. "That's interstate transport of stolen property," Richard told me later. "She just made this a federal case." "Federal?" "She's moving assets across state lines to hide them from a court order. FBI might get involved." I couldn't believe how stupid she'd been, how arrogant. She'd really thought she could just keep lying, keep stealing, keep getting away with it. But then, she'd gotten away with it for years already. Why would she think this time would be different? The forensic audit came back 2 weeks later. The accountant, a meticulous woman named Sarah Chen, presented her findings to the court in a document that was over 200 pages long. The summary: Vivian had stolen approximately $412,000 over the course of her marriage to my father. $412,000. Small transfers, cash advances, purchases that were later returned for cash at different stores, gift cards bought and sold, airline miles converted to cash through gray market dealers, jewelry bought on his cards and pawned, life insurance policies taken out with forged signatures. A second mortgage on the house he didn't know about. She'd been systematic, methodical, professional. "Has she done this before?" I asked Sarah. "I can't say for certain without investigating her previous relationships, but the sophistication suggests experience. This wasn't her first time." I felt sick. My father, grieving my mother, vulnerable and lonely, had been targeted by a predator, and I'd seen the signs but hadn't acted fast enough. "Don't do that to yourself," Uncle Marcus said, reading my expression. "You couldn't have known. She fooled everyone." But I should have pushed harder when she'd started isolating him. Should have insisted on seeing financial records. Should have trusted my instincts that something was wrong. "Your father's awake," Dr. Patel said, appearing in the courthouse hallway where I'd been waiting for the audit results. "He's asking for you." I ran. Actually ran through the hospital corridors, my heels clicking on linoleum, until I burst into his room. My father was sitting up, still connected to monitors but conscious, alert, his dark eyes focusing on me with recognition. "Diane," he said, his voice rough from the ventilator tube that had been removed that morning. "Dad." I grabbed his hand, tears streaming down my face. "You're awake. You're okay. What happened?" "The doctor said I had a heart attack." "At the airport?" "Yes. About 3 weeks ago. You've been in a medically induced coma." He processed this slowly. 3 weeks? "A lot has happened, Dad. There's a lot I need to tell you." "Where's Vivian?" I took a deep breath. "Dad, Vivian's been arrested. For theft. She's been stealing from you." The confusion on his face was heartbreaking. "What? No, that's not possible. She wouldn't." "Dad, I have documentation, bank records, offshore accounts. She stole over $400,000. He shook his head, wincing at the pain the movement caused. "You must be mistaken. Vivian loves me. She wouldn't." And there it was. The cognitive impact Dr. Patel had warned about. Or maybe just the desperate denial of a man who didn't want to believe he'd been conned. "Dad, she was at a casino when you collapsed. She didn't even come to the hospital. She was spending your money while you were dying." "You never liked her," he said, his voice gaining strength. "You've been against her from the start. This is just you trying to drive us apart. My chest tightened. Dad, no. I have proof. I have receipts, bank statements, court orders. A judge granted me emergency guardianship because of what she did. You what? His heart rate monitor started beeping faster. You took control of my accounts? To protect you. She was draining everything. I want to see Vivian. Where is she? She's in jail, Dad. She's been charged with theft, fraud, and contempt of court. Then you get her out. Right now, you use my money and you bail her out. I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. Dad, she stole from you. She drilled out your safe and took Mom's jewelry. You're lying. His voice was flat, certain. Vivian wouldn't do that. You're making this up because you want my money for yourself. The accusation hit like a physical blow. I don't want your money. I want to protect it. For you. By stealing it? By locking me out of my own accounts? By putting my wife in jail? Mr. Morrison, Dr. Patel said, entering the room, your heart rate is elevated. You need to calm down. I'll calm down when my daughter gives me back control of my life. If you've ever been excluded, you'll understand what happened next. The story I have next will hit different, so don't miss it. They sedated him. Not back into a coma, but enough to calm his agitation. Dr. Patel pulled me aside in the hallway. Is this normal? I asked, wiping my eyes. The confusion, the aggression? It can be. He's disoriented, and you're telling him things that contradict his reality. His brain is trying to make sense of conflicting information. Give him time. What if he doesn't believe me? What if he takes her back? Then he takes her back. He's an adult, even if it's a bad decision. But she'll just keep stealing. I know. But unless he's deemed incompetent, which is a high bar, he has the right to make his own choices. I called Richard. My dad's awake. He doesn't believe me about Vivian. He wants me to bail her out. Richard was quiet for a moment. Is he competent? Oriented to time and place? Mostly. He's confused but not delusional. Then the guardianship might get revoked. If he can demonstrate he understands his situation and make his own decisions, a judge will likely restore his autonomy. Even if he makes terrible decisions? Even then. Unless we can prove ongoing cognitive impairment, he gets to decide. That's the law. I felt everything I'd fought for slipping away. So she just wins? Not necessarily. The criminal charges stand regardless. She's still facing prosecution for theft and fraud. But if he wants to forgive her, wants to give her access again, we can't stop him. This is insane. This is family law. Over the next week, my father's condition improved. He was moved out of the ICU, started physical therapy, began talking about going home. And every single day, he asked about Vivian. I showed him the bank statements. He said they were fake. I showed him her Instagram posts from the casino. He said I'd photoshopped them. I showed him the court documents. He said I'd manipulated the system. He believed what he needed to believe to avoid facing the truth, that he'd been conned by the woman he'd married to replace my mother. Uncle Marcus tried talking to him. My father accused him of conspiring with me. Richard tried presenting the evidence. My father refused to look at it. Finally, Dr. Patel did a full cognitive assessment. The results: he was competent, oriented, capable of making his own decisions, even bad ones. The guardianship was dissolved. My father regained control of his accounts, and the first thing he did was bail Vivian out of jail. She came to the hospital that afternoon, all tears and professed innocence. She played her part perfectly. Devoted wife, falsely accused by jealous daughter. My father ate it up. I'm so sorry, honey. She sobbed into his shoulder. Diane put me through hell. She froze the accounts, had me arrested, turned everyone against me. I know, sweetheart, I know. But you're safe now. I stood in the doorway, watching this performance, feeling absolutely nothing. Not anger, not betrayal, just a cold, distant clarity. Dad, I said quietly, if you take her back, you're on your own. I can't watch you destroy yourself. He looked at me, and for just a moment, I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. But then Vivian squeezed his hand, and the doubt vanished. Then go, he said. I don't need you meddling in my life. So I left. I walked out of that hospital room, out of the building, into the parking lot where Uncle Marcus was waiting. He chose her? Marcus asked. He chose her. I'm sorry, Diane. Don't be. I did what I could. The rest is up to him. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because here's what my father didn't know. The criminal charges against Vivian didn't require his cooperation. The state was prosecuting based on the evidence I'd provided. Theft, fraud, money laundering, interstate transport of stolen goods, and Vivian, arrogant as ever, thought she'd gotten away with it. She thought my father forgiving her meant the legal system would too. She was very, very wrong. The trial was 6 months later. My father refused to testify against her, but he didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself. Bank records, offshore accounts, security footage, forensic accounting reports, her own social media posts. The prosecution presented it all in devastating detail. $412,000, stolen over 5 years, systematic, calculated, deliberate. Vivian's defense was that it was a misunderstanding, that my father had given her permission, that they'd made joint decisions. But she couldn't explain the forged signatures, couldn't explain the offshore accounts he knew nothing about, couldn't explain why she'd been at a casino while he was dying, or why she'd emptied the safe and lied about it, or why she'd hidden assets from the court. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in federal prison, full restitution of all stolen funds, and a permanent restraining order from my father once she was released. I wasn't there for the sentencing. I'd moved on by then, started rebuilding my own life, but Uncle Marcus called me with the news. 8 years, he said. She got 8 years. Good. Your dad was there, in the courtroom. He looked destroyed. I know. But maybe now he'll finally see the truth. Do you think you'll reconcile? I was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe someday. But right now, I need to focus on my own life. He made his choice. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. You protected him, even when he didn't want to be protected. Thanks, Marcus. 3 months after the sentencing, I got a letter from my father. It was brief, handwritten, his familiar script shaky with age or emotion or both. Diane, you were right. About everything. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I chose her over you. I was a fool. The house is being foreclosed. She took out loans I didn't know about. I'm moving in with Marcus. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I'm grateful for what you did. You saved me, even though I didn't deserve it. Love, Dad. I read that letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and went back to my life. 2 years later, I met him for coffee. It was awkward at first. Stilted conversation about safe topics. But gradually, we found our way back to each other. Not the same relationship as before, but something new, something more honest. He'd gotten a job, part-time, at a hardware store, was living simply, rebuilding his savings slowly, going to therapy, facing the reality of what he'd lost and why. She contacted me, he said during one of our coffee meetings, from prison, asked me to put money on her commissary account. What did you say? I blocked her number. I smiled. Good. I should have listened to you from the start. You and Marcus. You both saw what she was. You were grieving, Mom. She took advantage of that. That's not an excuse. No, but it's an explanation. We've rebuilt slowly, carefully. It's been 4 years now. My father lives modestly, works hard, and has never mentioned Vivian's name again. The restitution payments come automatically from her prison wages, $37 a month toward the $412,000 she stole. At that rate, she'll be paying it back long after she's released. Uncle Marcus says I should be angrier, that what she did, what my father allowed, deserves more rage. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm proud that I stood up when it mattered, proud that I protected my father even when he fought me. Proud that I didn't let Vivian get away with it. My mother's jewelry was never recovered. The offshore accounts were mostly emptied before they were frozen. The house was lost to foreclosure. But my father is alive, free from Vivian's influence, and slowly healing. And me? I learned that sometimes protecting the people you love means standing alone, means being the villain in their story until they're ready to see the truth. Means having the strength to walk away and the grace to come back when they're ready. Vivian gets out in 4 years. My father will be 82. I'll be 45. And we'll both be ready for whatever comes next, together this time. Because that's what family does. We protect each other. even from ourselves. My favorite moment was when that jury came back with the guilty verdict, and I knew justice had finally been served. What was yours? Comment below. And if you're a woman who's ever had to make the hard choice between keeping the peace and protecting what matters, the next story is for you. Someone who knows what it's like to be the only one willing to see the truth, who had to stand alone while everyone else looked away. You won't regret clicking that video on screen. This one's special, trust me.